The massive medical ship glided silently through the stars, its white hull gleaming under the light of distant suns. Red crosses marked its sides, a symbol recognized across 1,000 worlds. The HMSS Hope lived up to its name, carrying healing and life to the farthest corners of known space. Captain James stood at the bridge's viewport, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. 20 years of medical rescue missions had left their mark on his face, but his eyes remained sharp and kind. The ship's gentle hum reminded him of their precious cargo, experimental medicines that could save millions on the plague-stricken world ahead. "Captain, we're approaching the Centauri quarantine zone," announced Tom from his navigation station. The young officer's fingers danced across holographic controls, adjusting their course with precision. "Local authorities have cleared us for emergency approach." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency. They had done this many times before, bringing aid to worlds that other species had abandoned. Humans had chosen a different path after their last great war. While other civilizations built warships, Earth had turned its military industry toward healing. Dr. Lisa's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Medical bay to bridge. The new vaccine batches are stable, Captain. We're ready to begin mass production as soon as we arrive." The chief medical officer had spent months preparing for this mission, working with her team to modify the cure for the alien physiology of the affected species. "Acknowledged, Doctor. How are our current patients doing?" The Hope already carried 2,000 sick passengers, picked up from other worlds along their route. The ship's massive medical decks could care for 10 times that number when needed. "All stable. The new treatment protocols are working better than expected." Pride filled her voice. Human medical science had advanced rapidly since first contact, driven by the challenge of healing so many different species. The captain nodded, though she couldn't see it. Their ship represented the best of humanity, not just their technology, but their dedication to helping others. The Hope's crew of 500 included some of Earth's finest doctors, nurses, and medical researchers. Warning lights suddenly flashed across the bridge. "Sir," Tom called out, his voice tense. Multiple ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their imperial signatures. The captain's jaw tightened. The Galactic Empire had been watching Earth's humanitarian missions with growing suspicion. They claimed that unrestricted medical care disrupted the natural order. Their philosophy held that stronger species deserved better treatment, while weaker ones should be left to their fate. "Open communications," he ordered, "and remind them of our protected status under galactic law." Medical ships were supposed to be untouchable, regardless of political tensions. The Empire's response came as a visual transmission. Their commander appeared on the main screen, his uniformed figure rigid with authority. "Human vessel, you have entered restricted space. Your so-called humanitarian mission is a violation of Imperial decree. This is Captain James of the HMSS Hope. We're responding to a legitimate call for medical aid. There are thousands dying on the surface below." He kept his voice calm and professional. "We carry no weapons, only medicine. Your medicines change the balance of power. Primitive species must earn advancement, not receive it as charity." The Imperial commander's expression hardened. "You will withdraw immediately." The captain stepped forward. "We cannot abandon those who need our help. The plague doesn't care about political boundaries or evolutionary status. Please, allow us to complete our mission. You're welcome to observe all our procedures. Your persistence confirms our fears. Humanity has become a destabilizing force." The Imperial commander raised his hand. "You leave us no choice but to enforce order." Multiple weapon locks suddenly targeted the Hope. The medical ship's defensive screens were designed to block radiation and meteoroids, not military-grade weapons. Captain James looked at his crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt. "All hands, prepare for emergency operations. Medical bay, secure all patients." His voice remained steady as he gave the orders. "And send a message to Earth. The Empire has chosen to fire on a medical ship." He knew what such an action would mean. Humanity had remained peaceful for generations, but they had never forgotten how to fight. The first Imperial shots streaked across space, their deadly light reflecting off the Hope's pristine hull. The age of peace was about to end. The first blast rocked the Hope, making the massive ship shudder. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in red as thousands of patients and medical staff held on for their lives. The Empire's warships circled like hungry sharks, their weapons already charging for another volley. Direct hit to Deck 12. Tom's voice cracked as he reported the damage. Medical Ward C is losing pressure. Emergency shields are holding, but barely. Captain James gripped his command chair. Begin emergency evacuation of all outer wards. Move patients to the inner sections. His mind raced through options, each one worse than the last. The Hope carried no weapons. They'd used that space for additional medical facilities. In the medical bay, Dr. Lisa worked frantically to secure critical patients. The plague victims needed constant care, and moving them could kill them. "We need 10 minutes." She shouted into her comm unit. Just 10 minutes to stabilize the critical cases. Another blast threw her against a wall. A young nurse helped her up, both of them rushing to catch medical equipment before it could fall on the patients. The ship's AI constantly updated them on structural damage, each report worse than the last. Imperial Commander, Captain James tried one last time to reason with their attackers. "We have over 2,006 civilians aboard. Your attacks are killing innocent people who only came to us for help." The Empire's response came as another barrage of weapons fire. 3 destroyers now moved to cut off any escape route. Their commander's voice crackled through the damaged comm system. "The weak must not be allowed to rise above their station. This is the natural order." Deep in the ship's engineering section, the power core began to overheat. The Hope's engines strained as they tried to maintain power to both the medical equipment and the failing shields. Chief Engineer Bill made the hard call. "Bridge, we need to shut down non-essential medical systems, or we'll lose everything." The captain closed his eyes for a moment. Shutting down life support to some sections might save the ship, but it would condemn those patients to death. Negative. Divert power from engines instead. We stand our ground. More Imperial ships arrived, bringing their total to 8 warships against 1 medical vessel. They took positions in an attack formation that would have impressed even the most hardened military commander. The Hope's sensors caught their power readings spiking. They were preparing a coordinated strike. Dr. Lisa's voice came through again, stronger now despite the chaos. "Captain, Ward C is secure. We've moved everyone we can. But sir, some patients are asking for weapons. They want to help defend the ship." The captain almost smiled at that. Even facing death, their patients thought of others first. "Tell them their courage is noted, but our mission remains the same. We are healers, not soldiers." The Empire's next attack targeted their communications array. As systems failed across the ship, Captain James knew they had only moments to send a message to Earth. He nodded to Tom, who had already prepared their final transmission. The message was simple. AMSS Hope under attack by Imperial forces. Multiple warships. Defending 2,000 patients. No provocation. Medical ship. Remember Protocol Lazarus. Just as the transmission completed, a massive blast tore through the Hope's starboard side. Entire sections depressurized, held together only by emergency force fields. The ship's AI reported massive damage to critical systems, its calm voice a stark contrast to the destruction around them. Through it all, doctors and nurses continued their work. They moved patients away from damaged sections, administered emergency care, and refused to give up. Some sang to comfort scared children, while others worked in darkness when power failed to their sections. The Empire's commander watched the medical ship's stubborn resistance with growing frustration. He had expected them to flee, to abandon their patients and save themselves. Instead, the human showed a determination he had never seen before. "Final warning," he transmitted. "Surrender your ship and prepare for boarding. Your medical technology will be confiscated for proper distribution according to Imperial law. Captain James stood on his broken bridge, watching the enemy ships through a cracked viewport. He thought about Earth's long peace, about their choice to turn away from war and embrace healing. But he also remembered why they had kept the old weapons, deep in their secret vaults. Some crimes could not go unanswered. All hands, he called through the ship's remaining speakers. Prepare for impact. Earth will know what happened here. The hope may fall, but we will show them what humanity stands for. The Imperial ships opened fire one last time, their weapons blazing against the night. But the Hope's final message was already racing toward Earth, carrying with it the spark that would awaken humanity's sleeping giants. The message from the Hope reached Earth in the middle of the night. Within minutes, every member of the Security Council received the same alert. Protocol Lazarus. They gathered in the underground chambers of Geneva, their faces grim as they watched the Hope's final transmission. 2,000 patients, whispered the council president, her hands gripping the edge of the ancient wooden table. They attacked a medical ship carrying 2,006 civilians. The room fell silent as they watched the Imperial warships surround the Hope. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that hadn't seen light for 200 years, automatic systems began to wake. Massive floodlights illuminated what looked like a graveyard of giants. Rows of warships, their dark hulls, untouched by time, preserved in perfect condition. Admiral Marcus stood in his old uniform, watching younger officers rush around the command center. At 70 years old, he was one of the few who remembered the last war. He had been just a junior officer when they sealed these ships away, choosing to turn their technology toward healing instead of destruction. Status report, he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of decades. The facility's AI displayed holographic readouts of each preserved vessel. 12 ships in total, led by the massive dreadnought Thunderchild. Each one carried weapons that had been banned by galactic treaties that the Empire had just broken. The antimatter cores are stable, Admiral, reported Lieutenant Roy from his station. All ships are showing green across all systems. The AIs are integrating with the new crew data now. Young officers, trained in secret for this very day, took their positions across the facility. The Security Council's decision was unanimous. For the first time in 2 centuries, Earth would go to war. Not for territory or resources, but to protect those who had come to them for healing. The council president's voice shook as she gave the order. Wake them up. Wake them all up. In the underwater dock, massive pumps began to drain millions of gallons of preservation fluid. The Thunderchild emerged first, its kilometer-long hull gleaming under the emergency lights. Its name stood out in stark letters against the dark metal, a reminder of humanity's past strength. Admiral Marcus walked through the ship's corridors, touching the walls he had last seen 200 years ago. The ship's AI greeted him like an old friend. Welcome back, Admiral. All systems are operational. Crew integration is proceeding as planned. Young officers stared in awe at their stations. The technology around them was both ancient and far advanced of anything they had trained on. Each console contained the knowledge of past wars, ready to guide them through the battles to come. Show me the weapons, ordered Marcus. Holographic displays lit up, showing systems that most of the galaxy had forgotten. Antimatter torpedoes that could split planets. Gravity weapons that could tear ships apart. Technology that humanity had locked away, choosing to heal rather than destroy. In orbit, Earth's modern ships, mostly research vessels and medical craft, moved aside as the facility's massive doors opened on the ocean's floor. Clouds of bubbles rose to the surface as the preserved fleet began to rise, one ship at a time. The Thunderchild broke the surface first, water cascading off its hull like a waterfall. Its engines ignited, lifting it toward the stars with a roar that shook the clouds. Around it, its 11 sisters rose from the depths, their dark hulls blocking out the sun. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Admiral Marcus sat in his old command chair. Send a message to all ships, he ordered. 200 years ago, We chose peace. We turned our weapons into medical ships, our warships into rescue vessels. We helped any who asked nothing in return, and believed the galaxy would respect our choice. The preserved fleet moved into formation, their engines casting a blue glow across Earth's night side. Decades of technological advancement had been focused on medical science, but these ships carried the last word in human military might. The Empire has mistaken our kindness for weakness, Marcus continued. They believe that because we chose to heal, we had forgotten how to fight. Today, they learn how wrong they were. All ships, prepare for faster-than-light jump. We're going to show them why you should never strike a medical ship. The Thunderchild's engines flared as it led the fleet into jump formation. On Earth, the Security Council watched them go, knowing they had just changed the course of galactic history. Humanity had chosen peace for 200 years. Now they would remind the galaxy why that had been their choice, not their limitation. The preserved fleet moved through faster-than-light space like black arrows, their ancient engines leaving trails of blue fire across the void. On the Thunderchild's bridge, young officers worked alongside AI systems that contained centuries of combat experience. Warning lights flashed as they approached their target. Multiple Imperial signatures detected, reported Lieutenant Roy, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. They're still attacking the Hope. The medical ship shields are at 12%. Admiral Marcus leaned forward in his command chair. The Empire had added 4 more ships to their attack force, bringing their total to 12 destroyers against 1 wounded medical vessel. They were so focused on their prey, they hadn't noticed humanity's response approaching. Launch probe drones, Marcus ordered. Dozens of small, dark objects shot out from the Thunderchild's bow, spreading out like a flock of invisible birds. Each one carried sensors that had been science fiction when these ships were built. The drone's data painted a grim picture. The Hope was badly damaged, but still trying to protect its patients. Imperial ships continued their attack, systematically destroying the medical ship's defensive systems. They thought they had all the time in the world. All ships, battle formation Delta, Marcus commanded. The preserved fleet spread out, each vessel moving with precision that shocked their young crews. The ship's AAs had spent 2 centuries running combat simulations, preparing for this moment. The Thunderchild's weapons officer, a young woman named Jane, studied her displays with growing amazement. Admiral, these weapon systems, they're beyond anything in our training. The yield calculations are off the charts. 200 years ago, we were ready to fight the entire galaxy if we had to, Marcus explained. Instead, we chose peace. We turned our technology toward healing. But we kept these ships as a reminder of what we could do if pushed too far. He stood up, watching the tactical display. Today, we show them why. The Imperial fleet appeared on their main viewer, still firing on the Hope. The medical ship's white hull was scared and burning, but it refused to abandon its patience. Captain James and his crew had fought with everything they had. All ships, power up main weapons, Marcus ordered. But remember, we're not here for revenge. We're here to protect those who can't protect themselves. Target their weapons and engines only. Minimal casualties. The preserved fleet's weapon ports opened like the eyes of ancient dragons waking from sleep. Antimatter torpedoes armed themselves, their warheads containing power that could crack planets. Gravity beams powered up, ready to tear ships apart at the atomic level. Send them one morning, Marcus commanded. They deserve that much. The message was simple. This is Admiral Marcus of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are firing on a medical vessel in violation of galactic law. Stand down immediately or face the consequences of your actions. The Imperial commander's response came quickly, his voice filled with contempt. Earth has no military fleet. Your medical technology has made you soft. These fabricated threats do not. His words cut off as his sensors finally detected the preserved fleet. 12 ancient warships, each one larger than anything in the Imperial arsenal, decloaked from their approach vector. The Thunderchild alone was 3 times the size of the largest Imperial destroyer. All ships, execute attack pattern Sigma, Marcus ordered. Disable their weapons first. Show them what humanity can do when pushed too far. The Thunderchild fired first. A single gravity beam lanced out, invisible to the naked eye, but devastating in its effect. The targeted Imperial ship's weapons simply ceased to exist, the atoms pulled apart with surgical precision. The ship itself remained intact, its crew unharmed but helpless. Before the Empire could react, the rest of Earth's fleet opened fire. Antimatter torpedoes detonated with perfect timing, creating gravity wells that pulled their targets off course. Weapon systems vanished, engines died, but not a single Imperial crew member was harmed. In less than 30 seconds, the entire Imperial attack force hung dead in space. Their ships were intact but powerless, watched over by ancient human warships that seemed to defy the laws of physics themselves. Send a medical team to the Hope, Marcus ordered, and inform these Imperial ships that they're welcome to call for assistance. Perhaps now they'll understand why Earth chose to focus on healing rather than destruction. He smiled slightly. After all, it's much harder to disable a ship without harming its crew than it is to simply destroy it. The young crew stared in awe at their displays, finally understanding what their training had prepared them for. Humanity had not forgotten how to fight. They had simply found something better to do with their power. The Imperial commander stood on his powerless bridge, watching in disbelief as human medical teams boarded his ships to check for injured crew members. His mighty attack fleet hung motionless in space, their weapons and engines reduced to scattered atoms by technology he couldn't even understand. On the Thunderchild, Admiral Marcus received reports from across the battlefield. The Hope's medical staff had already begun treating injured Imperial crew members, showing the same care they gave to all patients. Dr. Lisa had insisted on personally leading the emergency response team. "Sir," Lieutenant Roy called out, "we're receiving transmissions from across Imperial space. Their central command just realized what happened." He paused, listening to his headset. "They're mobilizing their entire Third Fleet, 50 ships, heading our way." Marcus nodded calmly. "Show me the Hope's status." The medical ship appeared on his screen, its white hull scared but still proud. Emergency crews swarmed over its surface, repairing damage and reinforcing weakened sections. Captain James had refused to leave his ship, working alongside the repair teams. "Message from Imperial High Command," Jane reported from her station. "They're demanding we stand down and apologize for our interference." She couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. "They're still calling us a minor species that needs to be contained." The Admiral rose from his chair, walking to the front viewport. "Show me the recording from the Hope's attack again." The horrible scene played out before them. Imperial ships firing on a clearly marked medical vessel, ignoring calls for mercy and demands to protect the patients. 200 years, he said quietly. "For 200 years, we helped anyone who asked. We turned our greatest weapons into tools for healing. We watched species rise and fall, and we offered aid to all of them." He turned to face his crew. "Show them why we made that choice." The Imperial Third Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a massive display of force. 50 warships, the pride of their military, formed up in attack formation. Their admiral's transmission was brief. "Surrender your illegal weapons technology, and your punishment will be merciful." "Launch the drones," Marcus ordered. Thousands of small probes shot out from the preserved fleet, each one carrying 200 years of technological advancement. They swarmed around the Imperial ships like tiny stars, scanning and analyzing. "Sir," Jane reported, "the drones are showing that their technology hasn't changed much in 2 centuries. They're still using the same basic weapons designs from when we sealed away our fleet." Marcus nodded. "Send them our response." He took a deep breath, remembering the day they had chosen to lay down their arms. "Imperial Command, this is Admiral Marcus. 200 years ago, humanity developed weapons that could burn worlds. We looked at that power and chose a different path. We chose to heal rather than harm. The Thunderchild's main screen showed the Imperial fleet powering up their weapons. They still didn't understand what they were facing. "We kept these ships as a reminder," Marcus continued. "A reminder of what we could do if someone mistook our kindness for weakness. You attacked a medical ship, you fired on helpless patients, and now you threaten us with weapons we outgrew 2 centuries ago." At his signal, the preserved fleet moved into position. The Thunderchild systems came fully online for the first time in 200 years. Power readings that defied Imperial sensors pulsed through its hull. "Let us show you why we chose peace," Marcus finished. "Because anyone can destroy, it takes true strength to heal." The Imperial fleet opened fire, thousands of energy beams streaking across space. Not a single shot reached the human ships. Gravity wells appeared from nowhere, bending their attacks away into empty space. The same technology that had once been designed to destroy worlds now protected life with surgical precision. "Disable their flagship first," Marcus ordered. "Let's give them time to reconsider their choices." The Thunderchild's main weapon powered up, its energy signature making Imperial sensors scream in confusion. On the Imperial flagship, their admiral watched in growing horror as systems began shutting down across his fleet. No explosions, no destruction. Their mighty warships simply stopped working, their technology turned useless by weapons they couldn't even detect. And through it all, the Hope continued its work, its medical teams treating friend and foe alike. 2 centuries of peace had not made humanity weak. It had made them strong enough to show mercy. The great hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as Dr. Lisa walked to the speaker's platform. Behind her, massive screens showed the attack on the Hope from multiple angles. 200 representatives from different species watched as Imperial ships fired on the medical vessel. "We were treating plague victims," she said simply, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Children, elderly, anyone who asked for help. We never asked what species they were, or if they deserved care. In human medicine, everyone deserves care." The Imperial representative stood up, his elaborate uniform gleaming. "Humanity disrupts the natural order. Their so-called aid prevents proper species development. And now they reveal hidden weapons of impossible power." Dr. Lisa held up a small medical scanner. "This device can cure 50 different types of cancer. The ship you attacked carried 10,000 of them." She pointed to the screens, now showing the Hope's medical bays. "We could have made weapons. Instead, we made these." The council chamber erupted in discussion. On the screens, the footage changed to show the preserved fleet in action. The Thunderchild and its sisters hung in space like dark stars, their technology so advanced it seemed like magic to most watching. Earth's response was measured, noted the council president, an elder from a neutral species. Their fleet disabled 62 Imperial warships without a single casualty. They then provided medical care to crews who had just attacked them. Admiral Marcus stepped forward next, his old uniform drawing curious looks. 200 years ago, humanity faced a choice. Our technology had advanced to the point where we could dominate the galaxy. We could have built an empire that would last millennia. The screen showed the Thunderchild's weapon systems in action, carefully taking apart Imperial ships without harming their crews. The Empire's representative shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "We chose a different path," Marcus continued. "We sealed away our weapons and turned our technology toward healing. Every advance we made in military power, we transformed into medical science. The Empire saw this as weakness. They were wrong." More footage played. Human medical ships rushing to disaster zones, treating victims of plagues and wars, never asking for payment or favor. Years of quiet service, helping any who asked. A younger council member stood up. "But why keep these weapons at all? Why maintain such power in secret?" Dr. Lisa answered before Marcus could speak. "Because someone had to be ready." She gestured to the Imperial representative. "Because somewhere, sometime, someone would mistake kindness for weakness. They would attack a medical ship, endangering thousands of innocent patients. The screen showed the Hope's crew during the attack, doctors and nurses risking their lives to protect their patients, refusing to abandon those in their care even as their ship burned around them. Earth's preserved fleet exists for one purpose, Marcus added, to protect those who heal, to defend ships like the Hope, so they can continue their mission without fear. We don't want territory. We don't want power. We want to be allowed to help. The council president looked at the Imperial representative. Your forces fired on a clearly marked medical vessel. You endangered thousands of civilian patients. You violated every law of civilized space. They have weapons that could destroy us all. The Imperial representative shouted. Hidden technology that makes our strongest ships helpless. Technology we've had for 2 centuries, Marcus corrected quietly. Technology we chose not to use for war. Until you forced our hand. The council chamber grew quiet again as the final footage played. Human medical teams treating injured Imperial crew members, the Hope's doctors working alongside Earth's most powerful warships to save lives rather than take them. The council recognizes Earth's right to defend its medical missions, the president announced. Furthermore, we recognize the Empire's clear violation of galactic law. Reparations will be paid, and human medical ships will be granted special protected status. Dr. Lisa smiled slightly. We'll continue treating Imperial citizens, of course. Their health needs don't disappear because of their leaders' choices. The Imperial representative stared at her in confusion. You would still help us, after what we did. Of course, she replied. That's what doctors do. That's who we chose to be. She looked up at the screens, where the Hope and the Thunderchild hung in space side by side. One built to heal, one built to defend, both serving the same mission. Earth's greatest power isn't hidden in weapon vaults. It's in our choice to help others, no matter who they are. 3 months after the attack, the HMSS Hope floated in space above Earth, its hull gleaming with fresh paint and new armor. The Red Cross symbol on its side was larger now, lit up with powerful lights that could be seen from millions of kilometers away. No one would ever mistake its purpose again. Captain James stood on the bridge, watching as work crews installed the final upgrades. The ship was twice as large now, with room for 5,000 patients and the most advanced medical facilities ever built. But more importantly, it carried something new. Respect born of understanding. Engine tests are complete, Captain, Tom reported from his familiar station. The young officer had refused promotion offers, choosing to stay with the Hope. All systems ready for our next mission. In orbit around them, ships from 30 different species formed an honor guard. The Thunderchild led the formation, its dark hull a stark contrast to the Hope's pristine white. Admiral Marcus had insisted on personally escorting the medical ship on its first mission since the attack. Dr. Lisa walked onto the bridge, her medical coat now bearing both Earth's symbol and the new insignia of Protected Medical Service. The Imperial plague victims are ready for transport, she reported. Their government actually thanked us this time. The captain nodded, remembering how much had changed. The Empire's attack had backfired in ways they never expected. Now, every human medical ship carried the same protected status as diplomatic vessels. The preserved fleet had returned to its resting place beneath the Pacific, but its message remained clear. Humanity's kindness was a choice, not a weakness. Message from the Thunderchild, Tom announced. Admiral Marcus says the escort fleet is ready. The Hope's new engines hummed to life, technology adapted from the preserved fleet now serving to carry medicine faster than ever before. They had taken weapons of war and turned them into tools of healing, just as humanity had done for centuries. Deep in the medical bay, doctors and nurses prepared for their next mission. The Empire's attack had struck fear into many hearts, but not a single medical worker had quit. Instead, thousands more had volunteered, showing the galaxy that humanity's commitment to healing couldn't be shaken by force. The ship's AI displayed their destination, a mining colony on the edge of Imperial space, suffering from radiation sickness. Once, such a mission would have required diplomatic clearance and imperial oversight. Now, the Hope needed only to announce its arrival. All hands, Captain James called over the ship's comm. "This is your captain speaking. 3 months ago, we faced destruction because we refused to abandon our patients. Today, we return to our mission, stronger than before. The galaxy now understands what we've always known, that true strength lies in helping others." The escort fleet moved into formation as the Hope prepared for faster-than-light travel. Ships from former enemy species now worked together, united in their mission to protect those who healed others. Dr. Lisa looked at the colony's medical data on her screen. Their radiation sickness is advanced. They waited too long to call for help, probably afraid of looking weak. She smiled slightly. "But they called us now. That's what matters." The Thunder Child's massive form fell into position beside them, its weapon systems now modified to project defensive shields around medical ships. Admiral Marcus's voice came over the comm. "Safe travels, Hope. We'll be watching over you." As they prepared to jump, Captain James thought about the changes their stand had brought. Human medical technology was spreading faster than ever, freely shared with any species that asked. The Empire had wanted to keep the weak dependent on the strong. Instead, they had helped create a galaxy where everyone could be strong together. "Take us out, Tom," he ordered. "We have patients waiting." The Hope's engines flared brilliantly as it jumped to faster-than-light speed, leading its escort fleet of former enemies turned allies. In its wake, Earth turned peacefully below. Its hidden strength returned to sleep, but not forgotten. The preserved fleet had shown the galaxy why humanity chose peace, and the Hope showed them why that peace was worth protecting. On 100 worlds, doctors and nurses looked up at the stars and smiled, knowing they could now help anyone, anywhere, without fear. Humanity had proven that compassion wasn't weakness, it was the greatest strength of all. The Hope vanished into faster-than-light travel, carrying medicine and mercy to those in need. Behind it flew the Thunder Child, a weapon of war transformed into a guardian of peace. Together they showed the galaxy humanity's truth, that the power to destroy meant nothing compared to the choice to heal.